Here we go with kettlebell rack, pendlay row to rack. All right, for kettlebell flow number 1. Each one of these kettlebell flows, all right, in about a minute and a half. So this is very much loaded up to the upper back. We supply an emphasis on dropping those hips because the pendlay row, we have very high hips, don't we? High hips, almost in line with the shoulders and upper body. We have to drop the hips from this height to a little bit lower here before we rack. We use a staggered stance because we want to promote the unilateral movement. Side that's doing all the lifting, that's the side that we really want going here. Back. Lastly, as I reach towards the floor, notice that my shoulders are just working subtly in opposite directions, promoting strength of the thoracic spine and the rotation of the core. Good. Standing twist to lunge is kettlebell flow number 2. The hip flexors and quads gauge at the beginning and power the motion as extensors and hamstrings work as the movers, the prime movers. I'm gonna toss this kettlebell or the steel mace that we'll get right back here. I'm gonna toss this thing back around and slow the motion, the force, by lunging down into the floor. So the kettlebell, we throw it off of our body. We throw the mace, the hammer that I used with Mark. We throw those implements off of the body in that transverse rotational move. We descend towards the ground at the same time in order to kind of take the steam off of the counter rotation. So throwing this off of our body could really add some big time rotational forces in the wrong direction, can't it? However, we sink into the lunge at the same time, and we have to touch the floor sometimes, and that's okay. I can step all the way through the lunge, still get that rotation going. This is our standing twist. All right? And like we said before, we can use the mace. We can use the hammer. And this is very good because you'll notice with this particular, with the mace or any long implement, same side goes back at the arm that I'm using. I have to turn my head all the way around, so I'm really getting active through the core. This is what I call the discus to rack, kettlebell flow number 3, right? You can read about it, how the hip flexors and the hamstrings are the stabilizers at the bottom. I pass that kettlebell underneath, and then I drive all the way back up to standing. Okay? Those synergist muscles provide the power. The action stops at the top. I want to emphasize that big shoulder rotation. My shoulders almost go 180 degrees around, underneath, and I stop and twist. Okay? So I go around, underneath, and I stop and I twist. And it's good to counter rotate as I work. Okay? This is the pass under to kettlebell flow number 4. Here's where our implement's going to be as I do my demo, right? I'm going to step back, pass it underneath. So it's in the right side, pass underneath and stand. Pass underneath. We'll try this one with the kettlebell. The bilateral move. We're in a rack position. pass under. As I get that, come out of that lunge position, my hips, which were loaded at the bottom, biceps femoris muscles getting the most, they spring into action. I have to hoist that kettlebell using that hip flexor, get it racked, don't I? A really good move for us. Get really crisp work with, isn't it? Good. Kettlebell flow number 5 is a simple step out and press. One of the ways we can do that is to time it. Okay? So as I step around, I lock out that press. The palm, the toes, they're in the same direction. Right? Same thing on the other side. As I step out, I press. Now, this is a variation to where I can time it differently, where I step out first, then I elevate. And that puts a little bit more activity and emphasis a little bit more on the legs. All right? Other hand stays high to the chin. And I work the upper body. Kettlebell flow number 6 is one of my, I guess, oldest flows. And it's the spike with the snatch and the clean. Kettlebell flow 6. My spike, I'm going to step forward and stop the kettlebell in a parallel position to the floor. And that's called your spike. I add in a step forward every time I spike. There. Notice that it's just a quick bend of the elbow, then a quick straighten. I clean. As I snatch the bell all the way up, I step out. Spike.